In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Christos Anesti. There's a story of this highly opinionated, headstrong young woman whose idea of feminism and women's rights were to dominate and control others, no matter who she left in the path of her insensitivity, and who justified her crude behavior as, look, I'm a tell-it-like-it-is person. This young woman had a little boy, and he came up to her once, very innocently. He said, "Mommy, does God have a wife?" And she was preoccupied, and she, "No, of course not." And again, very innocently, he just followed up, and he said, "Well, who tells him what to do?" I have a feeling half of you are not going to like me after this sermon. But that's all right. I'm here, and I love you. You know, when I think of womanhood in general, I allow myself to think in idyllic terms. Just like the myrrh-bearing women that Mother Church commemorates today on the third Sunday of Pascha. Tender affection, deep devotion, grace upon grace, a healing presence. That's how I see women. They have a love within them that's just different. Whenever I take Presbytera with me for a hospital visit or for someone sick at home, I do my thing. I go, I pray. If the situation warrants, I give communion, I anoint, I hear confession, and I'm basically on my way. When Presbytera's there, it's a different ballgame. She comes close. She holds their hand. She stays with them for hours and hours. And if they want to engage and talk, she's right there. As you know, she's right there talking. However, if they want to be silent, she's right there holding their hand, just being silent, just being with them. And this is effortless for her. I think of our benevolent committee, the women on our benevolent committee. Not benevolent, bereavement committee. I think of them as healing, walking sacraments, helping families that are grieving, a very healing presence. But let me tell you, I am not a complete dreamer here. I'm not naive. I know that living in this world and being beguiled by the devil, even beautiful womanhood, with all that potential for good, can fall into pettiness and squabbles and idle curiosity and gossip and cunningness and mean-spiritedness. No other force, my friends, can deeply wound a man than a fallen woman who has become a plaything of the devil. I'm reminded of that poem. Actually, it was a nursery rhyme that was an adaptation from a poem from a 19th century American poet named Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. There was a little girl who had a little curl right in the middle of her forehead. And when she was good, she was very, very good. When she was bad, she was horrid. The myrrh-bearing women, again, we commemorate today, to me, are role models and icons of womanhood, of femininity at its best. Not aggressive, not overbearing, not domineering. In the words of St. Peter, they had the incorruptible beauty of a quiet and gentle spirit which is precious in the sight of God. Now, before you type people out there, before you start looking at me crossly and throw tomatoes at me, let me tell you, follow up quickly, that despite that these women were not overbearing and aggressive and this kind of thing, they were also not faint-hearted nor timid. Both dominance and mousiness are unacceptable extremes of one another. They both stem from the same sin called pride. And the evil one would have you ladies either fall into one or the other category. But I want to tell you, there is a power to true femininity, a potency and a nobility within authentic womanhood. I once asked a clinical psychologist, what is your definition of femininity and masculinity? And she told me, masculinity is where you have a kind of a rough and tough exterior, but inside there is a softness, a compassion. And then she stopped and mused for a moment, and then she said, and femininity is just the opposite. There is a gentle and soft exterior, but there is an iron will within, a force within. What the myrrh-bearing women lacked in male force was more than made up for by their feminine devotion, their inward love. Their weak nature prevailed not only over manliness, while the men were hiding during this time, the women were out there ministering. They overcame not only manliness, but nature itself. How else do you explain what we heard in today's gospel lesson? Their courage to go out, setting up on a mission that had virtually no hope of success, going out at deep dawn while it was still dark. In those days, in that darkness, was danger. Danger was lurking in that darkness, either from a wild animal or for robbers. It was well known. It was not safe. That didn't stop them. What about the stone? As we read in today's gospel lesson, it was not only large, it was very large. And not only that, it was sealed. If you broke the seal, you were in trouble. So, how are they going to do this? A very large stone with a seal, and not to mention this little obstacle of Roman guards there, soldiers. What are they going to do? Them frail women against Roman soldiers. It didn't matter. They had a purpose within. They had a love within. When you mix love and faith and humility, that is a recipe for disaster for the devil. In conclusion, let me just say, and I guess I'm addressing the ladies today, avoid the extremes. Don't be imposters. Don't be overbearing, but don't be timid either. Become who you already are, noble women. By doing so, the men in your life will become the men you want them to be, avoiding their extremes of being a dictator or, forgive my informality here, or being a sissy. I mentioned earlier, and I'll end with this, nothing can so deeply wound a man as a fallen woman. But the opposite is true as well. Nothing can inspire a man as much as receiving the one thing he needs from the woman he loves, respect. May God bless us today through the prayers of the myrrh-bearing women and Aretha Franklin. God bless you.